You see them every day, outside hardware stores, near local and fast food restaurants, and working in the fields. But have you ever stopped and asked, why do they risk everything to get here? This is the story of one man and the struggles he's faced to survive.
Por la mañana yo me levanto, no me dan ganas de ir a trabajar. Subo a la combi, voy observando que toda la gente comienza a pasar. Por la avenida va circulando el alma obrera de mi ciudad. Gente que siempre está trabajando y su descanso lo ocupa para soñar. Pa' soñarse, carnal.
Road to Nowhere. The Gabriel Hernández story. Camino a la nada. La historia de Gabriel Hernández.
Yo soy Gabriel Briceño Hernández, ¿va?
My name is Gabriel Briceño Hernandez. I'm 34 years old.
Mi cumpleaños, ¿va?
Today is my birthday, and my family is composed of 4 family members, myself, my wife, and my 2 kids. I was born and raised in Mexico City.
Nací en la Ciudad de México, en el Distrito Federal.
I have known Gabriel for more than 10 years now. We are both from Mexico City, the 3rd largest city in the world, just behind Tokyo, Japan, and Seoul, South Korea. Approximately 20 million people live in an area not even half the size of New York City. The official language in Mexico is Spanish. However, there are 68 native languages spoken here, with more than 364 different variations. Mexico City is well known for its food, history, and culture. It is divided into 16 delegations or districts, which are all very different and diverse. Mexico is a country of contrast. You can find some of the poorest neighborhoods not far from some of the wealthiest in the country.
I was born in La Cuchilla del Tesoro, in the Gustavo Madera delegation. I earned a living by selling roses in Polanco. I didn't study much in school. The highest grade I went to was junior high, the first year of junior high. The reason being I wasn't able to study is because we didn't have enough money for me to do it. And then I met my wife, and now we live here together.
Many people believe progress and success in a country is based on the education of its people. Mexico has a huge educational problem. According to INEA, the National Institute for Adult Education, there is a total population of 107 million people. 76 million are 15 years or older. Out of that 76 million, 6 million are what we consider illiterate. 10 million haven't finished elementary school. 17 million dropped out of junior high. That means 1 in every 3 Mexicans has a poor education. The average person below the American border goes to school only for 6 years, the equivalent to a 6th grade education in the United States. There are many reasons why people in Mexico don't go to school, but the main one is economics. Without an education, millions of Mexicans and their families have little hope of having a better future.
Es un poco injusta, ¿no?
I think that life has been very unjust. Most of us haven't been able to study. More than anything, I think it has to do with the organization of our family. There was 4 of us, so we couldn't afford to educate all of us. If one of us was educated or was being educated, then the other ones had to be educated, and we simply didn't have enough money to do that.
Entonces te origina a trabajar y salir adelante. Pero te digo que la vida...
So the only option we really had was to work and work and work, and that's the only option we had. And of course, life can be unjust in that way. Again, I think it has to do with a lack of finances. You can't really do anything without money. Simply, there just isn't any money sometimes for anything, education or otherwise.
I grew up and lived here for more than 20 years and have seen thousands of kids as young as 4 and 5 years old working or begging for a kind soul to give them a coin. You can find them under street lights, waiting outside restaurants, or just laying down in the streets. It does a tug at your heart and seems so very unfair. But in Mexico, life as we know it is not always fair. The Mexican newspaper, La Jornada, reports there are nearly 20 million people living in extreme poverty, the most severe economic condition. People living in extreme poverty struggle to meet basic needs for shelter, sanitation, and healthcare. Mexicans living under these conditions can't even buy food and water on a daily basis. In Mexico, having a less fortunate background means you cannot pursue your goals, and some families are trapped in extreme poverty for generations. In a city that is well known for its ancient Aztec warriors, Gabriel Hernandez is a modern one. He hustles the streets of this huge city in order to survive and provide for his family.
Pues se siente uno mal, ¿no? O sea,
Well, honestly, you really feel really bad as a man directly because, well, you want to give the best for your family and your kids, and sometimes you just can't. There isn't enough money. And sometimes you feel so bad because you can't provide stuff for your family that you feel like doing things that you shouldn't. But I'm an honest worker, I'm an honest man, so I'd rather work, and I do like working and earning an honest living. But on a day-to-day basis, I just barely make enough money to eat sometimes. And sometimes I just can't even afford other stuff like buying maybe a pair of pants or buying something for my wife. The reality of selling is pretty bit harsh because sometimes you only sell enough to eat something or to make ends meet, but not enough to buy little luxuries for your family here and there.
It's ironic, but you can buy almost anything in the streets of Mexico, from bottled water to high-tech equipment. Millions of people in Mexico work as street vendors. Here, there is a huge informal economy, which tails a positive and negative toll on this country. In the United States, you can have a few street vendors here and there, selling t-shirts outside concerts or food outside events. In Mexico, this sort of free enterprise presents a significant concern. On one hand, people that work the streets have a paying job and are not selling drugs or committing crimes. On the other, these business people don't pay taxes, but the majority of them do use water, electricity, and other public services, which they don't pay for. The Mexican newspaper El Universal says roughly 25 million people work in the informal commerce and trigger a huge burden for people who pay their taxes. Of course, the government is completely aware of these street merchants, but in Mexico, it seems like they lost complete control of the situation. That thinking, millions of Mexicans have no other option but to work in street markets. Minimum wage in Mexico is roughly 55 pesos, or close to $4 a day. That's right, a day. In the United States, minimum wage is nearly $8 an hour. The Mexican government does try to control street commerce, but Mexican authorities refuse repeated requests for a comment on this situation. I decided to go to the streets and ask street vendors about this. Several told me sometimes the government charges them between 20 and 100 pesos a day to sell their products in the streets. Others say they just strike a deal.
Pues más que nada, nosotros fuimos a ver a un delegado, ya tiene tiempo, hace como 3 años.
About 3 or 4 years ago, we talked to one of the delegates in Polanco, and he agreed that he would let us sell there if we agreed to also take care of the area. So a lot of people who are selling stuff were also taking care of the place by watering the plants or just cleaning, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes it just isn't enough money. I buy the roses for 70 pesos and I end up selling them for about 100 pesos. So the profit I make is about 30 to 80 pesos depending how many roses I make, and that just simply isn't enough. Now imagine, I spent about 20 pesos on the bus ride coming and going, which is about 40 pesos. And if I make only 30 to 80 pesos each time, it just doesn't add up. And with that little money, I have to support my family, myself, my wife, and my 2 kids. And earning about 40 to 80 pesos a day just isn't enough.
Mantener a mi familia, a mi hijo, a la niña y a ella, es un promedio de 150 pesos diarios de pura comida, ¿verdad?
I need about 150 pesos to make ends meet. And there's always other little expenses like milk and diapers here and there. And when it comes to rent, I end up paying about 700 pesos a month, which, that includes utilities. But still, sometimes I don't have enough money to even pay the rent. And like you asked me about Burger King, to me, going to eat at a place like Burger King is a big luxury because I just don't have enough money. I would say it would be better to actually prepare food at home. It's pretty tasty, the food that we prepare, and it's a lot cheaper also.
Okay. Street vendors told me sometimes, if you do not pay, and if you don't take part in this open corruption, you are sent to jail and your merchandise is taken away by authorities. While shooting this documentary, I witnessed the arrest of some street vendors. Authorities would not comment, some ignoring my questions on the scene. After hours on the phone, trying to learn something, I never got a clear explanation or answer about the way the government controls street vendors. One thing didn't seem clear, however. Street vendors must cooperate to stay out of jail. The image most people have of jail is the one movies and television portray. In Mexico, that reality is far more scary. Gabriel Hernandez doesn't need the media to bring home what could happen behind bars.
Pues la estancia, te voy a decir una cosa, en la cárcel.
So a lot of people ask me about my stance that I had in jail, and they ask me a lot of questions like, was I raped and stuff like that. And that's because everyone knows that sometimes the strongest will take advantage of the weakest. But I'd have to say that in American jail, stuff like that really doesn't happen. I'd have to say that when it comes to jails, the U.S. is number one. I say this compared to Mexican jails. I've been to Mexican jails visiting friends, buddies of mine that are in there, and I gotta tell you, it's a very horrible place compared to American jails. In American jails, they don't hit you, they don't take advantage of you. Quite the contrary, they actually try to motivate you to do something positive. You asked me why I look so skinny, and you've known me for many, many years. The other reason I'm skinny, besides being this way, it's because while I was in jail, they made us exercise and be more productive also. When I was in American jail, they even gave us 2 pairs of Converse tennis shoes and shirts. And everything was brand new. Also, where you were in jail, you had the right to study for at least half an hour. So you would either study or you would work. They would also teach you how to speak English, which was it was something you needed, because if you had a cellmate that didn't speak Spanish, you'd have to learn how to communicate with them. And this also went for the guards, which came in handy when you wanted to ask the guard for something, for either food or assistance or anything else. I'm not saying that I like jail, but American jail was definitely a lot better. Why? Because there weren't any physical abuse. People were trying to be positive. Everything was organized really well. I would even say we led a more normal life in American jail than in Mexican jail. Stuff like we would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do roll call, and then at 7 o'clock, after roll call, you can go back to sleep, and then at 7 o'clock we'd have breakfast, and everything was organized really well. The mess hall where we ate breakfast and lunch was huge. It was like about 800 meters squared in physical space, but it almost reminded me like of a buffet, an American restaurant buffet. That's how well organized it was. Everyone would get their own tray, you'd get fed, and I mean, it was just really well organized.
Como, o sea, dentro ahí en los Estados Unidos, como si tú fueras al buffet.
La Jornada, a Mexican newspaper, says, in Mexico, the penitentiary population is approximately 172,000. Given that population, that means 1 in 600 Mexicans go to prison, compared to 1 in 130 people in the United States. South of the border, many times, corruption goes unpunished. North of the border, by the way, Hispanics are sentenced to jail time more than whites, but less than African Americans. Gabriel Hernandez knows something about being in an American prison. To escape the poverty in Mexico, Hernandez paid a human smuggler $2,500 to bring him illegally across the Mexico-US border. For 2 years, he worked construction jobs, but in 2001, he was arrested for allegedly selling false identification documents and placed in an Ohio prison. Hernandez maintained his innocence, and after 3 years of incarceration, he was deported back to Mexico. Being in jail does not only affect the individual behind bars, it also has a terrible effect on the whole family.
Yo soy Griselda Francisco López y tengo 21 años.
I am Griselda Francisca Lopez. I am 21 years old and I live in Mexico. I have 2 kids, a girl and a boy. Here is my boy. He is the youngest. And my daughter is not with me right now. She's with her grandmother. I am a housewife.
Soy ama de casa.
No así, o sea, yo sé que es un tema sensible, ¿no? Y me gustaría, así tal cual lo estás expresando, nada más que lo pongas en palabras.
Es que como...
¿Te gustaría que Gabriel lo dijera?
Ajá, mejor.
Yo cuando la conocí, te digo, cuando yo me fui de aquí, en sí yo ya me fui.
When I left to the U.S., I actually left her pregnant behind with our baby girl. And when I came back to Mexico, our baby girl was already born. And I was gone almost a year, so by the time I came back, she was already with some other person. And even though she had gotten pregnant with our baby boy from another guy, we still try to reconcile each other. I think that she gets emotional because she thinks that what if I was here? If I was here, maybe she would have done that, get with another guy and had another baby boy from another man. I don't blame her. I mean, logically, if you think about it, I was gone, and what could she do?
If you had the opportunity to earn 10 or 13 times more income, would you risk your life for it? Well, many immigrants face that difficult decision every day. The United States is known as a promised land, and thousands of people try to get into the country, legally and illegally, every day. The American government estimates there are roughly 12 million undocumented immigrants or illegals living in the United States. It is widely known people migrate to the U.S. for economic reasons. Mexico is one of the countries with a high immigration rate. The United States government estimates 8 million undocumented immigrants are Mexican. Undocumented immigrants every year get hit by cars, drown in rivers, or can't overcome the merciless desert heat in the Southwest. Between 4 and 500 undocumented immigrants die. That's more than one a day. The U.S. Border Patrol is now using sophisticated equipment like night scan vision and heat detecting radars to crack down on people trying to sneak in. The last 8 years, a 2,000-mile fence was ordered to separate both nations. Some American companies are aware many of the people they are hiring could be undocumented, but that hasn't stopped them from giving them jobs. The government also benefits from undocumented immigrants who pay taxes. A car like this one is used by undocumented immigrants to pay taxes with the hopes that one day they can become legal residents or citizens. Many people criticize undocumented immigrants, but they do not understand that immigrants are searching for a better future and find themselves very attracted to the American dream. But sometimes that dream can become a nightmare.
Pero ya inmigración es lo más peor que puede haber.
Yeah, the immigration was pretty bad experience. They would hit people. I mean, I never got hit myself, but I saw them hit other people. They used to throw people around, and they also take away everything you have. You really don't have any rights. At 3 o'clock, they serve you your last meal, and they don't feed you until like 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. It's a very ugly life. You're in a cell where like you're sharing it with 15 other people, and you have like the toilet bowl right next to you, and everyone takes a shower also in the same room.
Ahí donde se bañan todos.
It is not uncommon for the people that cross the border to ask God for special help in a safe journey. The majority of the people in Mexico are Roman Catholic. Church officials estimate nearly 95 million people are Catholic. That's the official number. But like myself, most people consider themselves Catholic, but don't go to church or participate in church functions. There are roughly 1,200 churches and 1,500 priests in Mexico. In the capital city, there are also big Jewish and other Christian communities. Over time, in Mexico, religious cultures have blended with ethnic traditions and values. For centuries, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and other civilizations worshiped dead. Today in Mexico, that practice and church values have combined and become the popular Santa Muerte, or Saint of Dead. It is not clear where the first temple to La Santa Muerte was established. For people in a struggling nation, it is more than a statue or religious experience. The literal translation of Santa Muerte is Holy Dead, but it's not an official Catholic observance. This controversial statue has a balance on her right hand, which represents how sometimes we can be on top and sometimes on the bottom in life. In her left hand, there is a globe that represents death all over the world. There is also an owl, which represents knowledge. Enriqueta Romero, or Ketita as she is known, owns the Santa Muerte Temple in Alfarería. Every first day of the month, nearly 5,000 people show up for a service she offers to La Santa Muerte. She says 200 people from various backgrounds, from politicians to local thieves, also come by and pay their respects daily.
Yo soy católico, ¿verdad? Yo creo en Dios y en la Virgen y en todo, ¿no? A lo mejor como tú crees en Dios también, ¿verdad?
I'm Catholic. I believe in God and I believe in the Virgin, just like you believe in God. But I also believe in the Santa Muerte, which is sort of like a vision.
Que me ha notado de que pues es una imagen y más que nada primero está mi Dios, ¿verdad? Pero pues también
The Santa Muerte, I can say, has helped me out in a lot of tough spots. I do believe in God first, but second, I'd have to say that she is the deity that I believe in the most.
Antes de ella también está mi Dios, pero yo creo mucho en ella. Y ¿por qué? Porque me ha dado cosas que yo se lo he pedido, ¿verdad?
Why do I believe in her? I believe in her because she's given me a lot of wishes that I asked for. She's helped me out in tight spots.
Y lo cumplimos, ¿verdad? Lo cumplimos y gracias a Dios, pues de ahí ya creo yo en ella.
I'd have to say that the reason I believe in the Santa Muerte is influence from my mother.
Este chavo la hizo con sus manos y todo, ¿eh? Entonces su mamá me la regaló porque pues como...
We once had a big problem and our mother asked for her help in exchange for an offering, and it worked.
Ante todo primero está mi Dios, pero pues también ella. Es lo que, por esta imagen es la que la tengo. Pues yo aproximadamente...
The Santa Muerte figurine that I'm holding in my hand was actually sent to me by a buddy of mine who's in prison.
Le tengo sus dulces, o luego le pongo su agua, sus flores, y es lo que debe de tener ella, ¿sí me entiendes?
He actually made it with his own bare hands, and his mother was the one that gave it to me because she knew how much I believed in her.
Sí, exactamente. O sea, no me la inculcó, ¿verdad? Sino simplemente, o sea, ella vio que sí existe, ¿verdad? O sea, si existe lo bueno, pues también existe lo malo, ¿verdad? Entonces,
and like I said, I believe in God first, but she's second, and that's the reason why I believe in her.
O sea, se espanta, ¿verdad? De esta imagen, pero no debemos de espantarnos si en realidad es algo, ¿no? Algo.
I'd have to say I've worshipped her now for about 15 years.
¿Sí me entiendes? Esta Santísima Muerte fue elaborada por un amigo, como te digo, que está...
As you can see, I have an altar for her right here with candies and water and anything else she would probably need or want.
Claro, primero está Dios, ¿no? Pero ella te ayuda mucho en todo. O sea, mucha gente cree que ella no, ¿cómo se llama?
These are all the things that she should have on her altar.
Ella hace muchos milagros, o sea, ¿sí me entiendes? Si tú le pides ahorita algo, ella te lo cumple, pero siempre le debes de cumplirle lo que tú también le prometas, ¿sí? Yo no le prometo nada, nada más le prometo diario su veladora que esté prendida, su vaso.
Yes, it was my mother who told me that I should worship the La Santa Muerte. She once told me that if evil exists, then also good has to exist.
Me encomiendo en ella y siempre me voy con esa fe, ¿sí me entiendes? Ha habido veces que no vendo rosas, ¿sí me entiendes? Y nada más le ruego a Dios también, ¿no?
Though a lot of people are spooked by her image, but I always tell them that I do believe in her because I know why I believe in her. Because she's done good things for me, and we shouldn't be afraid of things that are good.
Tengo esa creencia ya casi como 15 años, ¿sí me entiendes? Mi mamá no me lo inculcó, sino que yo empecé a ver que ella existía, ¿sí me entiendes? Por eso.
Inspired in his beliefs and his family's desperate needs, Gabriel Hernandez is planning to return to the United States in search of a brighter future. He says it's worth risking everything again. He also remembers an American judge told him if he ever returned to the United States, they would put him away for a long time.
Mira, si la gente me estuviera viendo como tú dices, ¿no? Que me estuvieran viendo las personas allá en América.
So you're telling me that there's people in the U.S. that are watching this, and if they are, what I would like to tell them is that most of the people that come across the border, that we're honest, hardworking people. But there are people who go for all the bad reasons to do